Welcome to Franchise Spotlight, where we showcase unique franchise opportunities that give you the chance to build wealth, create a legacy, and take greater control of your future. Today, I'm exploring Mosquito Shield, a franchise that has turned one of America's most universal backyard frustrations into a repeat revenue business. It's been the number one ranked pest control franchise for 3 years running and has a customer retention rate that most service businesses can only dream about. Let's put the spotlight on Mosquito Shield. Well, today I am joined by Josh Hitchcock, Director of Franchise Development with Five Star Brands. Josh is responsible for two franchise concepts, Mosquito Shield and Card My Yard. Josh, welcome to the show today.
Scott, thank you so much for having me. I am looking forward and excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. And we're talking about Mosquito Shield today. That's our focus. Most people think of pest control as something you call when, you got a problem inside the house, right? But Mosquito Shield kind of operates in a different part of the market entirely, helping you enjoy your outdoor living spaces, right? So walk us through the concept a little bit. What service does Mosquito Shield offer? Who's the customer? And what is it that gets somebody to pick up the phone?
That's a great question. So there's a lot to unpack there, but there's a couple of things with that. You hit it on the head when you talked about this is a quality of life type of opportunity, right? And so when the consumer calls us and they say, or calls our franchisee and they say, hey, I need Mosquito Shield, it's because really they're trying to enjoy what's for most Americans the number one asset in their portfolio, which is their home.
Mhm.
And so we'll go there. We will treat their backyard for everything from mosquitoes. That's our primary focus. But we also
Mhm.
treat ants, spiders, roaches, and even scorpions if you're on the West Coast, any arthropods. We'll
Okay.
treat all of that with a proprietary blend. It's essential oil based in nature. It's proprietary to us. And the way it operates and works is they will pay for the entire season up front.
Hmm.
And then we just go to mirror the life cycle of the insect. So we'll be there. If a mosquito's life cycle is every 14 days, we're there every 14 to 21 days treating the home. They don't even have to worry about it. They're not being nickeled and dimed. They're not being charged again. And they're able to enjoy their home, their backyard the whole season. So
Mhm.
that's where our concept fits in the marketplace. So when we're getting that phone call, it's really, I want to enjoy my backyard. I want to enjoy my number one asset if we're thinking in business terms. And that's why they're calling us. And that's where we come in. And the cool thing about that is because of um, the versatility in what we treat, like in the North, ticks are very big. We treat ticks. Because of that, it facilitates year-round demand. And so and really demand from all over the nation. We've got some of our top performers in terms of our franchisees. They're all in the Northeast. Mosquito Shield started in Boston, Massachusetts, not exactly the mosquito heaven of the world.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's where we started and we moved from there.
Very, very good. All right. Yeah, no, you touched on this. There are a lot of different ways that homeowners might deal with pests and mosquitoes specifically. Lots of DIYers, right? We try our candles to keep them away at our parties or whatnot. Um, so you mentioned the essential oils based proprietary product. You mentioned that you know the life cycle of these insects, so you mirror their life cycle and you come and address it. Those are some pretty unique ways to approach this that a homeowner wouldn't be able to do on their own. But let's talk about why this is attractive to franchisees.
Wow, that's an amazing question. I do want to highlight one thing, and then I'll answer this question directly. You're talking about the expertise with it. When we
Mhm.
were actually building our formula, and as we continue to treat other pests, because pests evolve just like everything else, they evolve. We will actually work hand in hand with an entomologist that will
Okay.
actually work with us in designing this to treat these insects. And
Okay.
it's very, very technical, very in depth on the backside of things with our ops team. I don't want to dive into all of that, but just speaking to that technical side, this is not something you can just do in your backyard and have the same results if you did it
Mhm.
on your own. Now, relative to why franchisees would be attracted to this as an opportunity, frankly, it's a legacy business opportunity. So when you're thinking about building a legacy long term and you're
Mhm.
building a business that's going to provide residual income year over year, and you're thinking about how I can best do that, This is where Mosquito Shield comes into play. So we've got an 85% customer retention rate. So statistically speaking, 85% of our customers from one year to the next, they're customers with us again. And the cool thing is, it is almost like a membership model, but it's not. Because they're paying us up front, it is not a membership subscription model. But in
Mhm.
a lot of ways, it is because by the end of the year, they're happy with what we've done, the service we've provided. They renew for next year because they've enjoyed it so much. Right now, we've got we would call it the Amazon effect, where people get tired of the subscriptions. They look in their bank account and they see $20 for this or $15 for that, and you do 6, 7 of those a month that hit your bank account. For a lot of people, that's not only annoying, but it can be financially taxing. And that's
Mhm.
why Mosquito Shield strategically has built the model this way. And so when thinking about franchisees and what would attract them to us, it's that 85% customer retention rate and that ability to scale the business and build it legacy wise long term.
Oh, that's great. So it feels like recurring revenue, even though because of customer choice, it's an agreement, annual agreement. With the 85%, renewal rate, it's a lot like recurring revenue, but it's really just repeat business from good service.
That's exactly right, and it's
Nice.
because of the model that we've created.
Mhm.
We personally believe if we went another direction, so if we decided to go traditional membership route, right, where all of a sudden we're charging you X amount per month and it's a contract and you get charged every month, and then after the contract, it'll auto renew, but then you can cancel it at any time. Those numbers would look very differently. And if you looked
Mhm.
at some of our competitors, their numbers look very different.
Interesting.
But in looking at this, when we're talking about that 85% retention rate, we don't want them to feel nickel and dime. We don't want them to feel like everything's a transaction. So when they see our trucks pull up to their yard, they don't roll their eyes and go, I'm getting ready to get charged again.
Mhm.
They're excited to see us because they're like, man, these people come a lot to my
Mhm.
yard and they're not
Feels high
charged.
value. Yeah.
There's a value piece to it. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. So franchise ownership in general attracts a wide range of people, right? There are sometimes corporate executives are looking for a change. Sometimes, hands-on operators that, maybe they've been working for somebody else. Now they want to build something of their own. What does the profile look like for a successful Mosquito Shield franchisee? And I guess as importantly, the counterpoint, who's a bad fit for Mosquito Shield, right?
Yeah,
People could
that
self-select here. Yeah.
Man, who's a bad fit? Okay,
Mhm.
we'll leave that for the end. No,
Okay,
I
there
mean,
you
I
go.
think
Yeah, yeah.
I think a good fit. I mean, people that are looking, and I mentioned it earlier, to build a legacy business. So somebody that is,
Mhm.
I've got the long term vision. I want a business that's scalable, that's got healthy profit margins, that enable me to scale and grow for my family, build a legacy business. Those are people that we look for because at the end of the day, nobody wakes up, or very few people wake up and they're like, "Man, I'm passionate about going to kill mosquitoes today," but they do wake up with the passion of, I want to set myself and my family up for a better tomorrow. I want to
Mhm.
impact the lives of other people. I want them to be able to enjoy their backyard. They do wake up with that type of value add, value service, heart,
Mhm.
and mindset. And
Okay.
so looking for franchisees like that. But then from a business side of things, an economic side, looking for franchisees that, they're looking to grow and scale a business that's going to allow them the flexibility to keep their day job. So if they've got a day job, as long as they've got 15 to 20 hours a week to designate towards this,
Mhm.
they're able to then continue to scale and work on this business while maintaining their day job.
Mhm.
And then they're able to really grow. They're committed to networking in their area, marketing. They'll have their technician that'll do the day to day spraying, but they're committed to marketing and really networking that area and growing the business long term. That's kind of franchise candidate A. Franchise candidate B is more of your typical operator. So this is somebody that says, "Hey, I want to leave my day job. I want to dive deep into the business. I want to do everything from spraying to showing up at networking events." We've got a gentleman, ex-military guy, out of Wisconsin, and he left everything and said, "Hey, I'm gonna jump into this," and he's doing extremely well. So
Mhm.
those two type of candidates that are looking for the scalability and flexibility, but then the candidates that are looking to, hey, I just want to dive deep into this. I want to be traditional franchise owner operator. Those are the two that we're really looking for.
Okay. So you accommodate both the owner operator as well as more the executive model who's going to manage managers or manage the team and but never actually do the spraying themselves. Okay. Right.
That's correct. We
Yeah.
actually colloquially colloquially will refer
Mhm.
to it as the day to day without the spray.
Okay.
So these are franchisees that are monitoring the business. They're monitoring the KPIs. They're making marketing decisions. They're leading their
Mhm.
team well. They're not necessarily out there spraying, but they're doing all the things that make the business successful and really empowering their team to continue to build.
Okay. No, that's great. Let's dig just a little deeper into the owner role and kind of the lifestyle. Now, would you consider this a seasonal business?
So yeah, that's a great question. So it is a seasonal business, but it really depends on, as you just alluded to, where you are in the country, and then
Mhm.
also how well you've maximized the versatility of those revenue streams. So, and I'll get
Mhm.
into that in a minute.
Okay.
So across the country, obviously, as you know, further south you get, the more mosquito problem there is. Closer to water you are, more mosquito problem you have. And so Louisiana, Florida, Mississippi, they're going to have a longer mosquito season than a Montana, right? I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Mm.
But that's not to say that there's not other ways you maximize that. So mosquito season itself, yes, it's going to have, depending on the state, anywhere from 7 to 9 months out of the year is
Mhm.
typically your mosquito season. But if you're able to maximize those other lines of revenue, like ticks, so ticks all year long in the northern states, they deal with that most of the year.
Mm.
Scorpions in California on the West Coast deal with that most of the year. So
Mhm.
there's ways to get around that where you're bridging that seasonality gap. But I also look at it like the seasonality approach, even with our franchisees, a lot of them like it. And it's what's attracted them to the business because they look at that and they go, you're telling me I can make a year's worth of revenue in 7 to 8 months, and the other 3 to 4 months I'll go fishing. I'll enjoy time with my grandkids,
Mhm.
or maybe I diversify into another business. And a
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
them find that attractive as well. And so it is seasonal for sure. That's the industry in general. But that's something we've been able to navigate. And our franchisees that decide that they don't want to take the seasonal approach. So let's say they want to bridge that gap and work as much as they can. We've got other lines of revenue, both with Mosquito Shield and even sister um, addendum concepts within Mosquito Shield. So, like holiday lighting, that a lot of our franchisees have gotten
Oh,
into,
interesting.
that
Okay.
has bridged that gap and enabled them to do that. So,
Mm.
anecdotally, I'll tell you, last year we had an 85% increase in all of our ancillary revenue lines. So the tick shield, the spiders, ants, roaches, we call it perimeter shield, et cetera. We had an 85% increase, which
Wow.
again, we love that. Mosquito
Yeah.
shield will always be that front line top revenue stream as it should be. I mean, that's the brand.
Mhm.
But that is something where when those other lines are increasing, that increases the versatility of the business.
All right. No, that's really great. Yeah, and thanks for explaining that a little bit. So, Mosquito Shield is the brand. It's also the flagship product, and then you have other products like Tick Shield and other shields that against other things that are different types of revenue streams in addition to just the mosquito. So that thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, and to your point, I'll say real quick, four of them. So it's four
Mhm.
lines.
Okay.
Perimeter shield, which is ants, spiders, roaches.
Okay.
Event shield, which is, think of it like you're treating an outdoor wedding or birthday party.
Okay.
Uh,
Event shields.
and
Yep.
yep. And then mosquito shield, of course, and then tick shield, treating
And Tick
ticks.
Shield. Okay.
So
All
yeah.
right. Very good. Let's talk a little bit about the growth of the concept in the market context, right? So we're looking at the pest control industry. What's that? Is that my notes say $26 billion industry? Is that what you're seeing? What do you see?
It's a $26 billion
Okay.
industry
Yep.
that has a ton of demand, and I
Mhm.
think the compound annual growth rate is right at 5.6%, I think is
Okay.
where
Yeah.
we're
So
at.
nice healthy clip,
And
right?
and so it continues to grow in demand,
Mhm.
and it's something that as we, go forward, we see nothing but further demand happening with that. I
Yeah.
read an article in I think it was either the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, and it talked about the hidden millionaires, how your
Mm.
next millionaires, they're all gonna be in the blue collar home service space because it's people's number one asset. It's
Yeah.
AI resistant.
Mhm.
And number three, what are people most, I would say, concerned about? One of the top things they're concerned about in our culture and our society, and that is comfortability. We want
Mhm.
things comfortable. We want things
Mhm.
easy. I mean, if we're in line at Chick-fil-A and the line's longer than 2 minutes, we get aggravated. And that
Mhm.
is sitting in a nice car, air conditioned, listening to our favorite podcast. We're still aggravated. And so I say that people want comfortability. And if they can't enjoy their swimming pool, if they can't enjoy a fire pit during the winter, that is something that's going to annoy them, and it's going to continue to bring demand. Now, as we go further post 2020, when you're thinking about how illness focus, unfortunately, I don't know how else to say it,
Mhm.
our
Yeah.
society is, right? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
when
yeah, no.
here's the next pandemic, here's the next illness that's floating around. People are very, very conscious of that because of what we went through for, 3, 4 years. And
Yeah.
so that's something as well when you're thinking about all of the viruses, all the diseases that are spread via all things insects, particularly mosquitoes, but all of them, how it's spread with them. That continues demand too, because the
Mhm.
last thing you want is, God forbid, your little kid or your grandkid
Mm.
outside playing by the pool and you think they're fine because they can swim, but swimming's not the issue. It's the scorpion or it's the mosquito that just bit
Right.
them.
Yeah, no, that for sure. Yeah, I remember talking to somebody, they talked about how as a society, we're afraid of things that look really scary, like sharks and alligators and spiders or snakes, and yet the number of deaths from those creatures compared to, mosquitoes was like, "Ah, get away from me," and yet the number of deaths from mosquito-borne, illnesses is just insane. Mosquito Shield also, like, you've had the top spot in Entrepreneurs Magazine pest control category for multiple consecutive years, right?
For 3 years in a row,
3 years
we
in a
held
row.
that category, and
Yeah.
it's something that, again, it's just a testament to the brand, and it's a testament
Mhm,
to our support staff. We
mhm.
have, in my opinion, some of the best in class operational staff in the industry. I mean, we have invested heavily in that, and our VP of ops is just a strong leader, not just with Mosquito Shield, within our company, within the industry. I mean, he's
Mhm.
very well respected. I mean, I talk to people that are considering joining Mosquito Shield just because he is leading the operations here. I mean, that's the type
Interesting.
of
Yeah.
respect that he's got. And so when you're thinking about that, our incredible operations team and then our franchisees, what they've been able to do, they've really driven that number and driven why we've been able to retain that category.
Mhm.
And it's positioned us for further growth and success.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. We talked a bit about resilience and some of the risks in the business, but let's just be real clear about it, right? Because candidly, there are a couple of things that people push back on when we talk about the pest control space, right? One, the seasonality. Two, some people think about it being tied to discretionary, outdoor living type, luxury. Some people, and three, sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to deal with chemicals, right? I don't want chemicals, and I don't want to
Right.
do that to the environment. So let's talk a little bit about how Mosquito Shield, like, how do you stack up in these areas, and how you mentioned how you performed a little bit during COVID, but when homeowners start tightening their budgets, like, does this get cut quickly? Like, talk a little bit about some of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. So there's a couple of things with that. Number one, to your point, people they're valuing different things just differently, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you've seen that even with your Whole Foods and Trader Joe's phenomenon, right?
Hmm. It's true.
Whole Foods, Trader Joe's used to be the grocery store for certain type of clientele, where it was like, man, you're super health conscious, you've got some discretionary spend with you, etc. And while that still is the case to some degree, that has evolved where it's everybody and anybody shops at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, et cetera, at least for some things,
Hmm.
because they're wanting that quality and they're wanting it to be health conscious.
Hmm.
Relative to what we offer, there's a couple of things that we've built in. So number one, with the pay model, and we talked about it earlier, they pay once a year or once
Hmm.
for the whole season,
Hmm.
and that's it, right? So they're not being nickel and dime. So with that being said, there is no opportunity for cancellation during the year. So
Hmm.
you've already paid. Follow the next year if they don't renew. So we incentivize them to renew. We always throw a deal out, and we
Hmm.
incentivize them to renew. But if they don't renew and they say, "Hey, we're good. It was great, but this year I think we're going to tighten our belt a little bit," to what you just alluded to, high chance and high probability about a month into the next season, we're getting a phone call from them and
Hmm.
said, "Sorry," because they realized what they were dealing with before, and they
Hmm.
got used to that standard, and because people in general, you become used to and comfortable with whatever standard of living that you've got, and then you want to maintain it within reason. And so it's when you get used to going outside and not having to worry about something biting you, that's
Yeah.
That's what you have come to enjoy, and that's what you want. And so
Mhm.
it becomes hard, for that. And then secondly, we really look at residential areas. So we'll go in there, typical territory with us, which is larger than a lot of our competitors, is about 50,000 single family homes.
Okay.
So it gives you plenty of room to grow. And so when you think about our average revenue is at 285, 285,000, and the average spend is 715.26 per customer.
Okay.
That is statistically 400, give or take, customers on that spend
Mhm.
for 285. So when you're thinking about I've got 50,000 opportunities to hit 400, and that's what I need to hit over time, that gives you a lot of opportunity to grow. So
Mhm.
what I would
Mhm.
tell our franchisees, or even potential ones, is we do see demand, and we do see that retention rate is evident by that, where they want to come back again and again. And they're not looking to necessarily cut this, in large part because of the way we do the pay model. It's in large part because of that. But in the event you do lose customers, specifically due to cost, you should have opportunity to increase your scope
Mhm.
with the opportunity that's in front of you relative to your territory size.
Great, great. No, that's very, very helpful, and it helps people evaluating this concept to kind of get a realistic view of what they'd be in for, right? If a lot of times you just worry, what's it going to be if the economy turns down, right? If something happens, is all my revenue going to dry up? And I think you showed the nice balanced view. You know, people value different things, and people hold on to certain investments when they're used to a certain standard or they really want to enjoy that space. So good. Let's talk about the investment snapshot here for a second. When someone's seriously considering Mosquito Shield, they want to understand what's the financial commitment, especially when they think about year one. Can you talk to us a little bit about the general investment range that's in your FDD? And what is that capital going toward? Like, what do they need to invest in year one? What do they have to plan for?
That's a great question. So typical initial investment cost plus 3 months of operating
Hmm.
expenses typically hovers around 170 to 200.
Okay.
That includes 2 territories.
Hmm.
That includes 3 months of lease payments on a truck. That
Okay.
includes their initial service pack, we called it, and it's, basically their business in a box.
Hmm.
Everything from their blower to safety equipment to chemicals, all that stuff. It also includes your first entire year of marketing spend, and here's why that's unique. Most franchise systems don't do that. They don't include the marketing spend in the initial investment, but the reason we do it is a few things. Number 1, with a business like this that you're building from the ground up, you have to be committed to marketing. It's like not a choice. You've absolutely got to be committed to marketing. Number two, by realizing it as capex, right? So capital expenditure on the investment, it gives them flexibility long term. Number one, with financing as to what that looks like, they can
Hmm.
include it with that. And then number two, when they're really honestly and accurately judging profitability year one, what does my EBITDA look like year one, et cetera, that marketing being part of that capex, not that opex, is really huge. Now, going into year two and beyond, marketing 100% will be more of an operational expense. But going that first year, we say come in the gate and already have this budgeted,
Set
whether
it
it's
aside.
cash on hand or whether it's through what you're getting financed. And so
Mhm.
that first build year, first couple of years are really that reinvestment and building year where they're building a solid foundation for a long legacy of return. And that's what we tell people is you're building a legacy business. So your first couple of years, that's what you're building the foundation. It's like if I'm building a big house and it takes a year to lay the slab and really get a good foundation between all the work they've got to do on the ground and elevation and flattening and
Mhm.
making sure everything's of the highest quality. It's because long term, I'm building something that's really, really unique and really, really beautiful. And it's going to be a huge asset and a piece of enjoyment for me, but I've got to get the foundation right. And
Mhm.
that's how we look at that those first couple of years.
Okay, no, that's very helpful. And with every franchise system, right, there's some ongoing fees, right, or royalties or whatever. Um, People want to know, what do you get in exchange for the royalties, right? And it looks like from what I've researched, it seems that Mosquito Shield's invested heavily in the support and the systems. I think you have some kind of mobile app for field operations. You have a centralized sales center. You have some formal coaching programs. A lot of good things. You want to take a minute and just talk through what the support infrastructure looks like And what does that mean practically for a franchisee who knows they have to pay some royalties, but are going to get some value in exchange for that?
That's a great question. So I'll tell you, in my history is in franchising, I've been in a few different concepts,
Mhm.
and I have seen all extremes, from very little support, to so much support that, they're practically running the business for you. And when I look at that, I look at Mosquito Shield, I look at five-star brands of franchising. That is something we are committed to, is the success of our franchisees, and that is from the CEO on down. And so that is something that is not an issue to be discussed, other than how do we make this better for our franchisees. So in looking at Mosquito Shield, you alluded to the sales center. We've got a sales center in Utah. It's 100% local. We own it. When the franchisees get sales calls, we handle it for them. And
Mhm.
so we compared our numbers to our franchisees. And look, we love our franchisees, and if they see this interview, they'll laugh, but they know it's true. It was not even a contest of dedicated sales reps versus our franchisees handling those inbounds. So that's
Mhm.
something that
To
we
higher
do.
close rates, higher
Higher
scheduling appointments. Yeah, yeah.
hit rate,
Okay.
all of that.
Mhm.
And so we do that, and that is a huge, huge help and support to our franchisees. You also alluded to our CRM system, which gives the technicians turn by turn directions. It gives them marketing tools to hit a button and deploy marketing assets, et cetera. Like, we've got all of that in place to support our franchisees, because at the end of the day, in exchange for that royalty, for that ad fund fee, uh, obviously we make money on the royalty, and we're open
Sure.
about that. We're in
Yeah,
it
yeah.
to make money too.
Mhm.
But that support has got to be there, and it's something that we're really big on. I alluded to earlier how we've overhauled our ops team. So we have
Mhm.
brought in multiple business coaches, a VP of operations, and we've given him broad leverage to drive change within the system, to try to drive innovation. And I can tell
Mhm.
you, he is constantly looking for new ways to innovate, create, and get better, and so forth. And it's been a testament to the system wide sales. I mean, last year we did almost $30 million. Year before that, it was 25 million. And I think the year before that, it was like 19, 20 million. So it's like
Mhm.
it has consistently been
Significant growth.
growing
Yeah. Mhm.
significantly year over year. And that's something, again, that's a testament to that operational support. So when a franchisee comes in, what we tell them is, hey, you don't have to have pest control experience. You don't have to even have marketing experience. What you need to have is drive, engagement in your local community, so you're willing to show up at those marketing events,
Mhm.
and then a willingness to follow the process. What I tell people, Scott, in franchising in general, franchising is not for you if you're not wanting to follow a process.
Mhm.
So if you can't, you asked me earlier, what's the type of candidate that would not work for y'all? Somebody that doesn't follow a process. When you've got a proven business model, and this is why you buy into a system, why on earth would you not want to follow it? It amazes me too when I see, in franchising in general, just being in the industry, how many people they'll join a system and then they want to kick and buck. And I'm like, why on earth? You just bought into that system. You believe in the model. You believe in what they're doing. I'm not saying don't bring ideas, but why on earth would you want to reinvent the wheel? Because the whole purpose of getting in franchising was so you didn't have to invent the wheel to begin with.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that would be something that the model that we've been able to build, if they can just lean in and really get with our operations team and follow that process and model, we believe that the model speaks for itself.
That's very, very good. I appreciate that. Um, and you're 100% right. I mean, there are different types of entrepreneurs, right? And more entrepreneurs are not franchisees than are franchisees, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons, right? If a person wants to go out there and learn all their own lessons, make all their own mistakes, have full creative control, full process control, good for them. I think that's a beautiful thing. We got some great businesses out of it. And frankly, I think a lot of great franchises started from entrepreneurs like that. However, for those who want to skip that messy part and just get the playbook and get the business in a box and understand, here's how you run a pest control business. Here are the tools, the techniques. Here's the marketing playbook. Here's the chemicals you need, or
Sure.
which I do want to talk about a little bit more. When I said the word chemicals, that reminded me. I want to talk a little more about that. But here's the product you need. What a nice way to accelerate people's success in a new business. So thanks for reviewing that. Talking about the chemicals, you mentioned essential oils based, which sounds more natural than chemical, but talk a little bit about pets. When can pets go back in the yard? When can kids go back in the yard? How many people are growing extra arms and legs after they play in the yard after a treatment? Like what happens there?
Well, we've only had 2 reported cases. No, I'm just joking.
That's
None of that, none of that.
yeah.
That is a joke. Let me be
Yes.
very,
Yeah.
very clear. That's a joke.
We can cut
But
that if we have to. It's okay. But yeah,
no,
yeah. No,
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 no.
just
Keep
kidding.
it in, keep it in.
I'll
It's a
leave it
joke.
in. Yeah.
But what I'll say is this, we have about a shot glass full of controlled substance, within it, when it's in the solution.
Mhm.
It is essential oil based, so the rest is made up of various essential oils. I'm not gonna disclose
Sure.
all that.
Yeah. Proprietary product blend. Yep.
Various
Mhm.
stuff, that franchisees can see when it's actually on the carton when they get it, but it's various essential oils along with that shot glass of controlled substance. We actually I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then we'll get into the safety of it. Um, we actually have an A and a B line every year.
Mm.
So, over time, insects develop resistance to your whatever you're spraying them with, right?
Oh.
They'll build immunity just like humans do,
Mm.
and they're pretty resilient. And so, when we send a product out to a franchisee, we send enough product. We'll call it product A. Well, they'll go through product A, and when they're out of product A, we actually notify them, "Hey, we're they'll buy more product. We're sending product B because
Mm.
product B will go on, get on top of that resistance that the insects may be developing at this point to stay
Mm.
ahead of it." So that's just one ways we're staying ahead of the curve,
Okay.
even with kind of the spray and the solution itself. Now, relative to safety, so we cannot, legally, we can't go around and say something is 100% safe or,
Mhm.
et cetera. But what we can say is that as long as you're not going out there and just actively just ingesting the product,
Mhm.
it is something that even animals, kids, et cetera, after a few hours, they're able
Mhm.
to go out there and play like normal. So
Mhm.
we have team members on our team that use Mosquito Shield, and they've got children that are even allergic to
Mhm.
mosquitoes. And after a few hours, and if it's late in the afternoon, maybe you wait till the next day. But
Mhm.
after a few hours, they're able to go outside, enjoy the backyard, and kids are kids. If they're under the age of what 12, and they're going to put their hands everywhere, and everything is up for grabs, so to speak. And so as long as it's been a few hours, sometimes it'll spill the next day. It's fundamentally safer, and that's the word we'll
Mhm.
use is safer,
Safer. Mhm.
as opposed to just blanket safe. Because again, you ingest anything, even if it's the safest thing in the world, it can cause problems. If I have essential oils on my house that I diffuse. If I went over there and grabbed the oil jar of eucalyptus, and I love eucalyptus, and just decided to down it,
Mhm.
I
You'd have
promise you, it may
problems.
not kill me, but there will be
Yeah.
side effects from me downing a thing of eucalyptus.
And I think that's one of the things, even in my work with clients, the number one reason people try to pass by pest control immediately is they immediately associate it with toxic chemicals and they don't want to be polluting, right? And they're like, I don't want to be a part of that. And so I think it's an important thing for people to understand that, essential oils, are not toxic, right? I mean, yeah, hey, look, it's not good for the bugs. They don't want those essential oils. But at the same time, for humans, we're not creating toxic waste dumps by spraying essential oils on people's yards,
Right,
right?
right, and even the controlled substance is a like, again, minimum amount in
Mhm.
there. And anecdotally, we're testing out 100% natural spray this year. The
Okay.
reason we're not pushing it as much is it hasn't shown quite the results as that
Hmm.
controlled substance does.
Hmm.
But if we ever get it within a breath of it, we'll even test it out and make it even more of a push.
Hmm.
But I'll say this: we're very big, and we have a large presence in regulatory heavy states, and
Hmm.
we'll let the audience figure out what states
What
qualify as
state those
regulatory
those might
heavy.
be?
And
Yeah.
yeah, and which ones are not, but we've got a presence in both regulatory and non-regulatory heavy states, and I can tell you, we have navigated it well. We've had success. We've got demand from the clientele,
Hmm.
and so forth. And again, it's in large part to the processes we've got in place, but also the product that we
Hmm.
use.
Okay. No, beautiful. Thank you for that. Let's go back to the business fundamentals for a minute. Let's set aside the value of the brand. I think there's tremendous value in the Mosquito Shield brand, but let's set that aside just for a second and just look at the business fundamentals, pest control industry, and then markers like repeat customers, customer retention, margins, market demand, ability to scale. Like, what are the things that make this an attractive business model for someone who's looking to get into franchising?
Great question. So there's a couple of things. 85% customer retention rate, and I know I've mentioned it a couple of times.
Mhm.
That is huge. That's not just industry leading, that's not just pest control leading. I would suggest and that people look at other models and find me a number that's close to that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just it's an incredible number when you're thinking about that. Now, we've got a published EBITDA in our franchise disclosure document, your
Okay.
earnings before interest, taxes, deductions, and debt service or amortization of 29.5%.
Mm,
So, in thinking about that, that is inclusive of both owner compensation and GM compensation. So, this
mm,
was a location that we bought from a franchisee. It's now a corporate location, but these
mm,
were margins they drove,
mm,
inclusive of their personal compensation, which is unique when you're looking at EBITDAs because most of them don't have owner compensation built in it. And so,
that's interesting, yeah.
it was pretty unique at 29.5%. And so very, very strong margin. Mentioned the
Mhm,
revenue. I think I mentioned it was 285.
mhm.
And then our prepay, the amount of customers that will pay this year before next year is 28%. So nearly a
Oh,
third of the customer base
mhm,
will prepay this year for next year. So you're realizing revenue in advance of next year, this
mhm,
year. And so those are some of the things that really stand out about the model. And your ability to scale is incredible. We encourage it, we want it, and we believe we've got the model to do so. We've got a gentleman in New Jersey that owns 14 territories. He had 10, he just acquired 4 more.
wow.
We've got, our Pennsylvania location has a ton of territories. Our, uh, Boston location, a lot of territories in it. And so when I say a lot, I mean, like, double digits.
Mhm,
And so they've been able to scale and grow a business, and it's what we wanna see across the board. And so the scalability of it's huge. There's still a lot of opportunity, with this brand. I think the margins and then the retention rate. Again, to me, you can't say enough about the retention rate because it says so many things between recurring revenue, but also quality of product, quality of uh, systems, but also customer satisfaction when
mhm,
you're looking at an 85% retention rate. So
mhm.
those are some things that I would be looking at if I'm looking at this as as unbiased as I can be. Uh, as an
Sure.
unbiased
Yeah,
potential business owner,
yeah.
I'm looking at this and going, okay, those are statistics that I can get on board with and
Mhm.
that I can look at and go, man, that's interesting.
Yeah. No, no, thanks for that, Josh. And again, just to be really clear to anybody listening, the things that Josh said are disclosed in the franchise disclosure document. And of course, validation with existing franchisees to hear their actual experiences is the important thing. Don't go on any claims, financial performance claims that you think you might hear. Go validate that information with existing franchisees as you're doing your due diligence. So that's very good.
I'll say this, I encourage that as well, Scott,
Mhm.
because to you, I know we got another question. I'm sorry.
No,
You
it's
said
okay. Go ahead.
wanted
Yeah.
to encourage it. Franchise validation is so important for your system in franchising in your business.
Mhm,
And I can tell you that we have weekly validation calls. So potential candidates are always listening to what our franchisees have to say.
mhm.
And those franchisees are given full leash both on the call. And if they want to have a side call on their own, that's fine too. Say whatever they need to say,
Mhm,
good and bad, in between, etc. Because our heart, my heart, the team's heart is that you've got an accurate view. And so I would say, as your candidates that are listening and so forth, as they're considering opportunities, I mean, even if it's not us, if you ever hear, don't talk to franchisees or
mhm.
maybe, hey, yeah, that's not how we do things or whatever, that's a little bit of a red flag that I would look further because franchise validation is so, so important.
Thanks for saying that, Josh, because I agree. It is a red flag. If anybody doesn't want you talking to current owners, that's a problem because current owners are who's making it in the business today. So good, good.
That's
So I
right.
guess final takeaway here, Josh. We've covered a lot of ground in our conversation, but we talked about the service itself, the model, who succeeds or who's likely to succeed. As we wrap up, I guess if there's one thing you'd want a candidate or a client of mine to carry with them as they think about whether Mosquito Shield's the right opportunity for them, what's the one thing you'd like them to remember?
Oh, wow. That's incredible. I would think if they think about Mosquito Shield, the one thing I would want them to remember, it's an opportunity to make an impact in people's lives where they get to enjoy their home and build memories. So when you think
Mhm,
about memories and memories that are made, I that pulls at my heartstrings. So like
mhm.
I went back to Disney for the first time a few years back. It was the first time in 10 years and
Okay.
I'd lost my dad and my
Oh,
dad,
sorry.
but last time I'd been there was with him.
Mhm,
And the minute I walked in the park, all those memories came back, and I was,
mhm,
like, remembering walking past the castle with my dad and my mom, etcetera,
mhm,
and so it really touched me, and it was memories you can't put a price tag on that. So I think when you think about Mosquito Shield, you're enabling families to build those memories outside by giving them a quality of life they wouldn't otherwise have, while having the ability to build a legacy business with high profit margins and high customer retention. That's
mhm.
in a nutshell how I would say remember Mosquito Shield.
No, that's great. Really appreciate it, Josh, and thank you so much for taking time to discuss the concept and answer the questions. Really a fantastic job, and thanks for sharing the insights.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. It was truly a pleasure.
Well, that was our spotlight on Mosquito Shield. Now, what were the key takeaways from today's episode? Well, we learned they report an 85% customer retention rate, which really is a meaningful indicator both of product quality and of customer satisfaction. We also learned that they welcome semi absentee owners, so keeping your W 2 while you build your business is a realistic option with this brand. And prime territories are still available nationwide. If this episode has sparked some curiosity, here's what I suggest. Before you take a next step, let's talk. Not every franchise is the right fit for every person, and figuring that out early will save you time. Now, if Mosquito Shield is a strong match for your goals, for your skills, for your lifestyle, I want to make sure you show up to that first conversation with them prepared and confident. If it's not a great fit, I'd rather help you figure that out now rather than later. So feel free, book a no cost, no obligation 20-minute conversation with me. If Mosquito Shield is the right call and you think it's the right call, then I'll personally make the introduction. I'm Scott Elliott, and this has been Franchise Spotlight.